President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. The good thing is that he soon will be as irrelevant as an old tweet.
In what might be one of the most surprising political showdowns in years, Arnold Schwarzenegger, yes, the Terminator himself, has launched a fierce and uncensored attack on Donald Trump, and the internet can't stop talking about it. What started as a small insult about TV ratings has now turned into a major clash of ideas that could shake Trump's political power to its core. Trump threw the first punch by mocking Arnold's time hosting The Apprentice, but Arnold didn't just fire back. He went all in with a sharp, strategic, and deeply personal counterattack. Many experts are now calling it the moment Trump lost his grip on pop culture. And this fight wasn't just about TV, it was about destroying Trump's entire legacy. Ask Jack.
President Trump, I just saw your press conference with President Putin, and it was embarrassing. I mean, you stood there like a little wet noodle, like a little fanboy. I mean, I was asking myself, when are you going to ask him for an autograph or for a selfie or something like that? I mean, you literally sold out at this press conference our intelligence community, our justice system, and worst of all, our country. You're the President of the United States. You shouldn't do that. I mean, what's the matter with you? I mean, whatever happened to the strong words or to the strength of Ronald Reagan when he stood there at the Berlin Wall and he said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall? What happened to all that?
It all started again when Trump, speaking to a crowd in Iowa, threw a casual insult at Schwarzenegger. Arnold did The Apprentice. It was a total disaster. He sneered, full of mockery, ratings tanked. Normally, that would have been just another Trump dig, soon forgotten. But Arnold wasn't about to let it slide. He jumped on Twitter and, like a sharpshooter, fired back. Why don't we switch jobs? That one line blew up the internet in seconds. It turned from a simple comeback into a bold challenge. It showed that the Terminator wasn't just targeting Trump's ego. He was aiming straight at the myth that made Trump a political force. Ask Jack.
As an immigrant to this country, I would like to say a few words to my fellow Americans. President Trump sought to overturn the results of an election, and of a fair election. He sought a coup by misleading people with lies.
The internet went wild. Arnold's tweet, which highlighted Trump's obsession with TV ratings and his own record as California's governor, wasn't just brutal, it was perfectly aimed. Soon, social media was full of side-by-side comparisons. Arnold fixing budgets, Trump twisting facts. Schwarzenegger's jokes weren't just funny. They were clever tactics, as his tweet turned into trending hashtags, late-night jokes, and a flood of memes. Something interesting happened. People started to remember that Arnold wasn't just an action hero. He was a Republican who ran a Democratic state with more respect than Trump ever brought to the White House. When the chaos finally calmed down, that joke felt like a warning. Come true. This wasn't about TV anymore. It was about exposing a failed president who hid behind his fame.
And I tell them, I said, hey, stop whining. What do you do? I said, we all have a responsibility. What do you think, the action comes only for the whole world out of Washington, the White House? No. I said, most of the action is happening on a local level and on a state level.
So people should just ignore Donald Trump then when he talks about the environment?
I wouldn't say ignore it. I think you can be aware of it. You have to be aware of your obstacles, but you should not go and use them as an excuse, is my point. You know, you got to go all out. Do I have a vision? I mean, imagine that when I was 15 years old, my vision was to go to America and to be a bodybuilding champion and to get into acting and to do big movies, Hollywood movies. What do you think the obstacles there were? Endless amount of obstacles, and it was very difficult. It was a grind. So did I surrender? Did I go and whine? No. I just said, okay, here are the obstacles. This is what I have to overcome, and I made it.
In an exclusive interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Schwarzenegger pulled back the curtain even more. He brushed off the idea that he could ever match Trump's original Apprentice ratings. But he didn't make excuses. TV isn't democracy. He said firmly, ratings don't change lives. Approval ratings do. It was the kind of line that doesn't just sting, it sticks. Arnold wasn't there to defend a TV show. He was there to show how Trump turned applause into a substitute for real leadership. And as he spoke, it was clear Arnold wasn't just mocking Trump. He was tearing down the last excuse Trump's fans held onto. If Trump still believed he was the ultimate winner, Arnold had just given him a brutal plot twist.
Don't pay any attention that we have now Trump in the White House and that he may not agree with everything that we are doing or that we believe in. I don't fall for this excuse. I think that you should just shift gears, have a big vision. What is it that you can do rather than whining?
Do you hear that from a lot of people in the rest of the world about Trump, though? Are they bringing that issue up to you?
Especially in an environmental issue, people have been saying to me, what's the point now of fighting pollution and fighting climate change when we have Trump? And I said, what a stupid thing to say. I said, so you mean that you cannot do anything anymore? I said, do you realize the very fact that when you go and buy something that is made in China, that you're contributing to the pollution because someone has to ship this stuff over there? I said, you can do something, stop it and just buy a pair of jeans that says made in America. It's that simple.
Then came the knockout blow. Trump left me a sinking ship, Arnold said. Half the country wouldn't watch because of him. That one line hit harder than any insult Trump ever shouted from a stage. It wasn't an excuse. It was an accusation. The harsh truth was clear. The show flopped not because of Arnold's hosting, but because Trump's toxic name turned it into a political battlefield. By staying on as executive producer, Trump made the franchise a fight over him, and Arnold took the hit. But in that failure, Arnold found a new weapon. Now, whenever Trump brags about ratings, Schwarzenegger has cold, embarrassing proof that even in showbiz, Trump ruins what he touches.
Arnold Schwarzenegger has a message for President Trump after last weekend's white nationalist rally and counter-protest in Charlottesville, Virginia.
In fact, as president of this great country, you have a moral responsibility to send an unequivocal message that you won't stand for hate and racism.
The former Republican governor of California is disappointed by President Trump's statement that, quote, both sides were to blame for the violence in Charlotte.
They hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster. And Mark will never, ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold, if we can, for those ratings, okay?
Hey Donald, I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you're such an expert in ratings, and I take over your job. And then people can finally sleep comfortably again.
But Schwarzenegger's hardest hitting blow came in a video that no one expected, filmed with his Conan swords in the background. It looked like a movie speech, but it was deadly real. After the January 6th riot, Arnold didn't hold back. He didn't just call Trump a liar. He called him the mastermind of chaos. He spoke about Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass in Nazi Germany, and tied it directly to the Capitol attack. As he spoke, his voice cracked, not from fear, but from deep conviction. President Trump is a failed leader. He declared, he will go down in history as the worst president ever. No spin, no fancy lines, just the harsh, honest truth.
You said history shouldn't repeat itself. Donald Trump is now the front runner to be the nominee of your party, of the Republican Party. Given everything you said, does that concern you?
Absolutely not, because being a front runner of one party and letting them dig this hole deeper and deeper is going to make it easier for the Democrats in the end to win. It's sad to see that they couldn't come up with a new talent, with a new face that is a reasonable, smart, intelligent person that can lead this country in a Republican way.
You think there's no way he would win again?
No.
What if he did?
What if it is a hypothetical question? But I can guarantee you that he's going to go maybe get the Republican nomination. Then when it comes down to the actual election, there's too many people now that have seen what he did as president, that I think when it comes to the majority on election day, I think they will see the difference between one and the other. And believe me, I'm not the first one to say, hey, this is really great to have Biden back as president. No, but there's just no better option there, the way it looks right now.
Why do you think you'd be a good president, or would have been?
Yeah, I think that I have the talent to be a good president. And I also think that I have the talent to go out and to sell that idea to the American people. Those two candidates, Trump and Biden, suck all the energy, all the oxygen out of the room when they give a press speech or do anything. So no one else has the chance of getting the exposure. And there's really no one with a big name, so to speak. So that's why it will be easier for me, that from 1 minute to the next, that dynamic would change if I would jump into a race like that.
Schwarzenegger's message wasn't just powerful, it was deeply personal. He spoke about growing up in post-war Austria, surrounded by broken men who came home from fighting for fascism, drowning their guilt in alcohol and silence. That old pain, buried for years, came rushing back as he watched the Capitol fall to a mob filled by conspiracy theories. This week, he said, "I saw the same kind of violence from people drunk on lies. The parallel landed like a lightning." Bold. He wasn't talking about politics. He was exposing a moral collapse. By bringing up Europe's darkest history, Arnold wasn't just calling out Trump. He was warning America about what happens when democracy is mocked and the truth no longer matters. Ask checked.
In the middle of the president's tweet tirade on Saturday morning about President Obama wiretapping his phones, he also took the time to tweet about Arnold Schwarzenegger and The Apprentice, and he said Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't voluntarily leaving The Apprentice. He was fired by his bad, pathetic ratings, not by me. Sad end to great show. What do you think?
I think that Donald Trump's in love with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger thinks, and I agree.
Okay, so he spoke with, Schwarzenegger spoke with Michael Smerconish's radio show. Here's what he said. She gave it away.
Final question, unrelated subject, but I'd be derelict if I didn't ask. Why do you think the president is fixated on you? Why does he keep talking about you through his Twitter feed?
I think he's in love with me.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
You've had a long relationship with him.
Oh, yes.
That's all you're saying on that. Thank you, Governor.
Absolutely.
Well, he also talks a lot about
as they say on Seinfeld, not that there's anything wrong with that, but go on.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the only guy who has a better chest than Vladimir Putin.
He talks a lot about you, Don, so maybe he's in love with you as well.
I've always thought that. I think that he really likes me. That's why he talks about me so much. So.
I think the president is in love with success, and he said that the show wasn't going to be successful, and he turned out to be correct, and so he likes to talk about things that he's in love with.
So he's in love with Schwarzenegger.
Okay, by
anyone's standard is a huge success. He was a governor. He's, so anyway, go on.
Right, we've now become lulled into this completely parallel universe of Donald Trump in which we all of a sudden, this is just kind of normal. It's worth remembering, George W. Bush, when he ran for president in 2000, said he was running to restore the dignity and honor of the office after Bill Clinton, right? There was a time when Republicans actually cared about that. Now we have a president of the United States who just randomly insults B-rate movie actors, and we think, it's kind of cute, right? This is crazy. It's just totally crazy. We just gotten used to it.
The symbolism in Arnold's video was unmissable, holding his Conan the Barbarian sword. He reminded everyone that democracy, like that blade, must be forged through fire and struggle, or it will break. Then, in a moment more powerful than any campaign ad, he slammed the sword onto his desk. It wasn't just for show. It was a message forged from his own life. Lies, conspiracies, violence, he said. That's what they used you for. Cannon fodder in a disgusting game. The video went viral in minutes, but it wasn't the memes or the movie lines people remembered. It was the pain in his voice, the urgency in his warning, and a clear message from a man who knew what happens when history tries to repeat itself.
As the former governor of California, my home state, California's been in the headlines. Obviously, there have been these huge protests of President Trump's immigration policies. He threatened to potentially arrest Gavin Newsom if he didn't comply. If you were governor right now of California, how would you be handling the ongoing crisis that the state's facing?
Well, I think the most important thing is when you are in a leadership position like that, is that you are inclusive and that you work together with everybody. And so it means that you have to work together with local government, the state government, and the federal government. They have to work together rather than fighting each other. Fighting each other's agendas and all that stuff, that doesn't do good to anybody. And so that's number one. Number two, the most important thing is to create immigration reform. Because all of this is happening because we don't have immigration reform. For decades now, this country has needed immigration reform, which means that we recognize the fact there's people in the south of America that want to come north to work, and that we therefore should supply them with enough visas so they can come, because we need those workers. So this is the bottom line, because then we would know who is here. We will be able to get rid of the criminal elements that are here and all of this stuff, so we wouldn't be in a mess that we're in right now. So this is my way of saying always, Democrats and Republicans have to come together and solve this issue if they really want to be public servants. If they want to be party servants and be party hacks and be tied to their ideology, then it won't happen. But if you want to make this country better, and if you want to improve this country and improve the situation of people's lives and bring the prices down and all of this, you will go and serve the people of America. This is what it is. If you're a public servant, that's what you're supposed to do. So that's what I would do if I'm governor.
What shocked people most was that Schwarzenegger, a Republican, a former Trump ally, a Hollywood legend, had become one of Trump's toughest and most believable critics. He didn't need votes, campaign money, or more TV time. He spoke out because he had nothing to lose, and that gave his words real power. "I don't want another office," he later told Fareed Zakaria. "I just want my country to wake up from this nightmare." In that moment, Arnold became more than a star or an ex-politician. He turned into a mirror for a broken Republican Party, a party that let itself be taken over by fear, fake news, and a reality TV circus that betrayed everything true conservatism once meant.
Mr. Trump has been indicted on federal charges, but most of the top Republican officials are siding with him against the special prosecutor. How do you explain that?
If the charges are correct, then he's going to be in deep trouble. But at the same time, I have to say that, we're always innocent until proven guilty. So we'll find out what the courts say in the future. But if the charges are right, I think that he's going to be in deep trouble.
And how worried are you about the fact that he could be reelected president?
I'm not worried about it, because I don't think it's going to happen.
In that same CNN interview, Schwarzenegger didn't hold back about what he called the Trump delusion. He compared it to the rise of European populism and warned that Trumpism wasn't true conservatism at all. It was an empty brand built on fake enemies, fake wins, and fake strength. "What we're seeing isn't the Republican Party. It's a personality cult," he said. The words hit hard. If anyone had earned the right to define conservatism, it was Arnold, an immigrant who climbed the American dream, led with bipartisan common sense, and spent political capital fighting for the climate. Meanwhile, Trump spent for years tossing out insults, ducking responsibility, and turning democracy into a sideshow. Schwarzenegger wasn't just criticizing him. He was daring real conservatives to take their party back.
I want to ask you a quick question about Donald Trump. He listed his weight at 215 pounds. You are one of the foremost experts on the male physique, bodybuilding, etc. When you size him up, what would you guess that man weighs?
I don't really know how much he weighs. I can tell you one thing, that if you would ask me what should you do for fitness, I would just say run around yourself 3 times. You're going to be in great shape.
Even when it came to real policy, Arnold stood out from the chaos. He backed Biden's infrastructure plans, but didn't hesitate to call out wasteful spending. He praised the Inflation Reduction Act's green energy push, but criticized the political backroom deals that came with it. His ideas were big and bold, like national service for young people, fairer voting maps, and nonpartisan primaries, and unlike Trump, he didn't stir up hate to score points. Instead, he asked a tough question: when did solving problems become treason? That line echoed far beyond the interview, because at its heart, Schwarzenegger's message wasn't about left or right. It was about basic decency, civic duty, and refusing to swallow the political junk food Trump fed America for years. With every word, Arnold made one thing clear: Trump is not the future.
Trump doesn't seem to see you in the good way that you do, in the way that we do. Here's what Donald Trump had to say about you, and I want to get your reaction to this. He said it at the National Prayer Breakfast. This is
hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster. And Mark will never, ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold, if we can, for those ratings.
Now, this is the President of the United States. You're laughing. You're laughing. You see, he's laughing.
Because I think it's funny.
Well, well, the President of the United States at a prayer breakfast says this. Why do you think it's funny?
Well, I think it is funny that he uses a prayer breakfast. I think, plus, I have thick skin. I mean, this doesn't bother me at all. And it's very funny, and it gave me an opportunity to then go and shout back and say, that the show didn't do well because, 1/3 of the audience left because they boycott the show because you're the executive producer, Donald Trump. If you would have just not opened up your mouth and tell everybody that you're the executive producer, we would have had really great ratings on the show. But the advertisers left, the audience left. They hate the guy. So they left, and so I was caught in the middle of this political thing there. So I said, that's why I said I'm not going to do the show again.
Well, how does it make you feel when you think about the fact that the party, those Republican voters, they may not like your show, but they sure like Donald Trump?
Well, that's perfectly fine. Look, I think that Donald Trump won the presidency, and I called him right after he won, and I said, congratulations, you are now our president. Anything I can do, I will be helpful. Because if you are successful, we all are going to be successful.